Welcome back to B Master 79. In this lesson we're taking on IELTS Speaking Part 2 and Part 3 Topic 56. Describe an argument two of your friends had. You get the 1-minute planning method, a full band 9-style long turn, and complete answers to all 4 Part 3 questions. One honest note before we start. Our candidate, my, is invented, and so is the story. The Band 9 label is our own assessment against the publicly available band descriptors, not a certified examiner score, so copy the technique, not the content. Here's the plan. First we decode the card, including the 4th prompt hiding underneath the bullet points. Then a 60-second planning grid that works on any story card. After that, the full long turn broken into 4 chunks with the strongest language highlighted in amber. Then all 4 Part 3 questions, and for each one you get the thinking first and the answer second. And finally, a language bank you can steal outright. A quick reminder of how Part 2 actually runs. The examiner gives you a card with a topic, 3 bullet points, and a final instruction underneath them. You get 1 minute to make notes, and you should use all 60 seconds. Then you speak on your own for 1 to 2 minutes. The examiner will cut you off at 2 minutes, and that's a good sign. It means you had enough to say. Then one short rounding off question. And remember, nobody is checking whether your story is true. You are marked on the English, not on the honesty. Here's the card, exactly as it's printed. Number 56. Describe an argument two of your friends had. You should say when it happened, what it was about, how it was solved, and explain how you felt about it. Now look carefully, because there are 2 traps here. There are 3 bullet points, but 4 things to cover because that last line is a prompt in its own right. Most candidates run out of time and never reach it, and that costs them marks for task coverage. The second trap is the wording, 2 of your friends. Not you and a friend. You are the witness here, not the participant, so your feelings are about watching it happen, not about being in it. So, the 60-second plan. Step 1, 10 seconds. Pick a real memory instead of inventing one. Real memories arrive with 3 details attached, a place, a time, who was standing where. Invented stories force you to make decisions while you're talking, and that is exactly where hesitation comes from. Step 2, 20 seconds. Draw 1 box per prompt, 4 boxes, 2 or 3 keywords in each. Step 3, 10 seconds. Give the 2 people names. It makes the story concrete, and it stops you saying my friend, my friend, my friend. Step 4, 20 seconds. Write your final sentence as keywords. If you already know where you're landing, you will get there fluently. And whatever you do, write keywords, not sentences. Anything you write as a sentence you will end up reading aloud, and reading aloud sounds nothing like speaking. Here's what those notes actually look like on the paper. When 2 years ago, final semester, exam season, Hu Trang, a perfectionist, and Hai, who had taken a part-time job. What it was about, workload on a capstone project, coasting versus never being asked. How it was solved, coffee the next morning, explain rather than blame, split the work. How I felt torn, stuck in the middle, and later on, it cleared the air. That is 37 words of notes, and it is the entire 2-minute answer. Notice that not one of them is a sentence. Before you hear it, here's the shape. Chunk 1, roughly 20 seconds, sets the scene and says why you remember it. Chunk 2, about 35 seconds, is what the argument was actually about, and that is where your best vocabulary belongs. Chunk 3, another 35 seconds, is how it got sorted out, told as a sequence of events rather than a summary, because a sequence always hands you the next thing to say. And Chunk 4, around 30 seconds, is how you felt, followed by a reflection. That final reflection is what lifts the good answer into Band 9 territory, because generalizing is exactly what Part 3 is going to ask you to do anyway. Alright, here's my.
I'd like to talk about a falling out between two of my closest university friends, Trang and Hai. It happened 2 years ago in our final semester, and I remember it vividly because it was right in the middle of exam season, when everyone was already frayed at the edges. We were all in the same capstone group, so I had a front row seat. It was essentially about workload. Trang is a bit of a perfectionist, and she'd quietly taken on most of the research, whereas I had picked up a part-time job and kept missing our meetings. The night before the deadline, she finally snapped and accused him of coasting and letting the team down. He shot back that she'd never asked for help, she'd just done everything herself, and then resented him for it. There was a grain of truth on both sides. It was sorted out surprisingly quickly, though not that night. They'd both stormed off, and I barely slept. The next morning I got them to sit down over coffee and asked each of them to explain what they'd been dealing with rather than what the other had done wrong. Once Hai admitted he'd taken the job because his family was struggling, Trang's tone changed completely. He apologized for not checking in. He apologized for going quiet, and they split what was left. At the time, I felt torn because I could see both sides, and I didn't want to be dragged into taking sides. Being stuck in the middle of an argument between two people you care about is genuinely uncomfortable. Looking back, I'm glad it happened. It cleared the air, and their friendship is more honest now. It taught me that an argument isn't necessarily the end of something. Sometimes it's just the point where people finally say what they've been thinking.
That's the first half. Everything in Amber is language that is doing real work. A falling out is far more precise than an argument. Frayed at the edges describes a whole exam period in 4 words. And a front row seat quietly explains why you were there to see it, which justifies the entire story. Now notice what none of that is. None of it is rare vocabulary. There isn't a single word there you would need a dictionary for. It is ordinary English used precisely, and that is what lexical resource actually measures. And the second half. Notice how much of the Amber here is phrasal. Stormed off, checking in, going quiet, cleared the air. Examiners are listening for exactly this natural phrasal language used without any apparent effort. And look at the very last sentence, where it stops describing and starts observing. That single move tells the examiner you can handle abstraction, which is the whole point of Part 3. For the record, the full answer is 307 words. In this recording it runs 1 minute and 55 seconds at about 160 words a minute, which is a realistic Band 9 pace. So time yourself. If you speak much slower than that, this answer will overrun the 2-minute limit and you will get cut off during the reflection at the end, which is the one part you least want to lose. So why does that reach Band 9? Fluency and coherence, 4 clear chunks, no false starts, and an ending that closes the loop instead of trailing off. Lexical resource, and I want to stress this again, none of the good language is rare. Falling out, frayed at the edges, a grain of truth, cleared the air. It is common English used exactly right. grammatical range past perfect for the backstory, reported speech for the accusations, and hedging all the way through the reflection, and pronunciation, which a transcript can never show you. Record yourself saying this out loud. On paper it is a 9. In your mouth, it only stays a 9 if the stress and the linking hold up. And the honest caveat again, band 9 here is our own reading of the publicly available descriptors, not a score from a certified examiner. Now part 3. This is a discussion, not an interrogation. The examiner will push back and ask you why, and that is a good sign rather than a trap. Expect 4 to 6 questions and expect them to be broader than your story about people in general rather than about you. Aim for 3 to 5 sentences each, long enough to develop one idea properly, short enough that you are not padding. And you are completely allowed to disagree, because there is no correct opinion here, only a clearly developed one. Every answer you are about to hear uses the same 4 moves. Take a position. Give the reason underneath it. Add a contrast or an example. Then qualify it. Question 1. Do you think arguments are important? Here is the thinking. Take a position, but qualify it immediately, because an unqualified yes sounds naive. Then give the reason underneath the opinion. Silence in a relationship is not harmony, it is resentment being stored up. Then draw a distinction, and this is the single highest scoring move in part 3, arguing about the issue versus arguing about the person. And finally land it with one short sentence, rather than fading out. Here it is.
I'd say they are important, yes, though it obviously depends on how they're conducted. A relationship where nobody ever disagrees usually isn't harmonious. It's just one person swallowing their opinions, and that tends to come out later as resentment. A well-handled argument forces both people to actually articulate what's bothering them, which is often the only way anything changes. The distinction I draw is between arguing about the issue and arguing about the person. The first is productive. The second is just point scoring, and nobody comes out a bit better off.
Question 2. What do family members usually have arguments about? The strategy here is categories. When a question asks what people usually do, do not give one answer. Give a small taxonomy, because it shows the examiner you can organize ideas while you are speaking. 3 buckets: everyday friction, generational expectations, and the unspoken layer underneath. Then localize it, because one culturally specific observation makes you sound like a person rather than a textbook. Then one concrete example, and finish by generalizing.
In my experience, it's rarely anything dramatic. It's the small, recurring friction of living together. Chores money, whose turn it is to do something. In Vietnamese families specifically, I'd say a lot of it is generational. Parents want a say in things like careers and relationships that younger people increasingly see as their own business. And there's usually an unspoken layer underneath. An argument about someone coming home late is almost never about the time. It's about whether the parent feels respected or the child feels trusted. The surface topic is really the real one.
Question 3. Is it easier for you to have arguments with your family or with your friends? First rule for either or questions: commit. Pick one within the first 4 words. Sitting on the fence costs you marks, because it reads as having no opinion rather than as being balanced. Then name the mechanism, not just the answer. Family comes with a safety net. Then contrast the other option, and finish by conceding something about your own behavior, because a small admission sounds authentic and it is effortless extra fluency.
With family, without question, and I think that's true for most people. With your family, there's a kind of safety net. You know that however badly it goes, they'll still be there at breakfast. That security makes people far less careful about what they say, which is exactly why family arguments escalate so fast. With friends, there's more at stake because friendship is voluntary. It can quietly fade if you damage it. So I tend to be much more diplomatic with my friends, sometimes to the point where I avoid raising things I probably should.
And question 4. Do you think people should change the way they think when having arguments? Do not just say yes. Name the exact shift you are recommending, because a specific change is an argument and a vague one is a platitude. Then diagnose why people fail at it. Then reframe what actually happens if you go in curious instead of certain. And finally, stay realistic. Adding a limitation to your own argument is not a weakness, it is a Band 9 habit because it shows you can see your own position from the outside.
I do, and a shift I'd advocate is treating an argument as a problem to solve together rather than a contest to win. Most people go in trying to prove they're right, so they spend the other person's turn preparing a rebuttal instead of actually listening. If you go in genuinely curious about why a reasonable person could see it differently, the whole tone changes. That said, I'm realistic. It's far easier to say that calmly than to do it when you're worked up. It's a skill, and like any skill, it has to be practiced, ideally on small disagreements before you need it for a big one.
Here is the language bank from the long term. Pause the video and screenshot this one, and notice what is not on this list. There is no rare vocabulary, nothing you would need a dictionary for. A falling out, frayed at the edges, to snap, to coast, to storm off, to clear the air. Every single one of these is common English used exactly right, and that is what separates Band 7 vocabulary from Band 9 vocabulary. Learn them as whole phrases, never as single words, because it is the phrase that carries the meaning. And these are the Part 3 phrases, which are the ones that actually hold an answer together. The distinction I would draw is between, in my experience, it is rarely, without question. That said, I am realistic. These are not decoration. Each one tells the examiner what you are about to do next. Contrast, soften, commit, qualify. If you learn only 4 phrases from this entire video, learn those 4, because unlike the story vocabulary, they work on absolutely any topic you are given. And finally, here is what Band 9 actually means, paraphrased in our own words from the publicly available descriptors. Fluency and coherence. You talk at length with almost no hesitation, and you develop every topic fully. Lexical resource. You handle vocabulary flexibly and precisely, idiom included, without any of it sounding rehearsed. Grammatical range, the full range of structures, used naturally, with errors so rare that they never register. And pronunciation, the full range of features, used with subtlety, effortless to listen to. Now notice something. 3 of those 4 are about naturalness, not about difficulty. Nobody has ever been given a 9 for using long words. Right, your turn. And please actually do this one, because watching is not practicing. Set a timer for 1 minute and plan this exact card yourself. 4 boxes, keywords only. Then record your own 2-minute answer before you listen to Mize again. Yours first, then compare, and that order matters. Then take 5 phrases from the language bank and force them into a completely different story, because a phrase you can only use in one answer is not learned yet. And answer all 4 Part 3 questions out loud, 3 to 5 sentences each, with no notes. Drop your favorite phrase from the bank in the comments, and I will see you on the next cue card. This has been Beam Master 79.